Welcome back for episode 2 of my Airline Club Let's Play. We are playing as Ascendant Airways, and so far things are going somewhat according to plan. If we look, it shows my routes here. They've had some time to kind of settle in. This one in red is not doing very well apparently, and this one in yellow is not doing especially well either. So the first thing I'm going to do is just check on my routes. And I usually sort by load factor. I like to put them from least to greatest. That way, any routes that are having particular problems are going to be right up here at the top. And I certainly have some routes with problems. So I had anticipated that people would be happy to fly on my airline, but I think that what's happening is that they just don't know about my airline because it's totally brand new and we're just not established yet. So I'm going to do some things to try to remedy that. One of the first things I should probably do is pay attention to my service quality, which I've left at 0. 0 is pretty low, so let's start increasing that to 10. I could go higher, but it takes time to bring the service level up as I train employees. So I'll just start out with 10. That only costs me $234 a week, which is absolutely nothing compared to the amount of money I have. So I really should have done this right off the bat, but I didn't. And while I'm here, this is the income graph. You can see that I started out in the negative, but I've climbed up to the point where I am making some money at least. And we'll see that as we take a closer look at the routes themselves. So let's come back here. I only have 3 flights a week to Florence. I don't like to drop below 3 flights a week if I can help it, because it makes things really inconvenient for the passengers. So instead, I'm going to just lower the price, which I'll do here. I'll take it down a couple notches, and I hope that that will start to generate a little bit more interest in my flights to this city. One thing I also want to check is to make sure I'm still alone on this route, and I am. You can see here most of my seats are empty, so it's really not doing me any good at all to maintain a higher price. In fact, since this one is doing so terribly, I'm going to knock it down 2 more notches, because it's much better to have a full plane with a low price than an empty plane with a moderate price. So the other thing I'm going to do is check on the airport itself and see what's my awareness, 9.8, which is better than 0 anyway, and loyalty is 12. Loyalty should actually increase because I lowered my price, and I'm very slowly increasing service quality. And both of those affect loyalty, which I believe it tells you right here. But I'm not going to take the time to read that now. All right, so let's take a look at Istanbul to Genoa. And you can see this one started out pretty poorly, and briefly we had a full plane, but then the next week it went down to 0 apparently. So I'm not quite sure why it's so erratic, but I'm going to do pretty much the same thing here. I could also increase the service quality with these stars, but I don't feel like I need all that much service quality. On the other hand, on second thought, I think I will do that. So let's take this down 3 pegs. I'm going to increase my service quality here. So I'm probably going to, well, I won't be losing more money than I am already, I bet. But possibly. I'm certainly spending more money. But the thing is, right now, my main focus is increasing my reputation and my awareness at these airports. And the only way to do that is to fly more passengers. And as I said last time, I have a lot of money in the bank. So because of my conservative approach that left me with a lot of money, I don't have to worry too much about going bankrupt anytime soon, and I can leverage that money to get more slots out of my capital and to build up my awareness. That's really kind of a constant trade-off is between keeping your prices down and impressing the airports and getting more slots, and higher prices obviously will raise your profits, assuming that you can sell all of the seats. Okay, this one doesn't look quite so bad. It's still pretty erratic, but it seems to be doing, well, significantly better anyway. So I'm just going to come in and drop the price a little bit, because when I start seeing a solid green block on that previous screen, when this hits the top and stays there, that's when I'm going to look at increasing my prices. And Naples. Now remember, this is where I want to set up a hub as soon as I hit 10 reputation. I think that's the limit, or the threshold that I need. So here, it probably makes sense to spend even more than usual. Oh, especially because there is competition here. So I'm going to drop my price pretty significantly, and I'm going to go all out. I'm going to go to level 3 service, which might not be necessary, but I like the idea because it's going to help me build up a reputation and a relationship with Naples a little quicker. And then this city, I probably should learn how to pronounce it. Elazig, I'll go with for now, has actually already hit maximum capacity, and it looks pretty stable right now. So I'm not going to increase the price just because this is my only route that actually looks pretty solid, but I'm not going to decrease it either because there doesn't seem to be any need to. Now the other thing we can see is that I have 5 slots available. So I'm going to open up some new routes. I want to get these started because it takes time to build them up, and so even though they're not going to do very much initially, I still like the idea. Now I'd like to have flights going in all 4 directions, or every direction I guess, but I took a look and I cannot reach Cairo. This is considered intercontinental, and I believe it's 1,000 kilometers. So I took a look at these as well. Sometimes it takes a couple clicks to get it to acknowledge. And it's just over, which is quite unfortunate. It means it'll never really be worthwhile for me to fly to these cities. So when I look at the flight map, one thing I noticed is that most of the flights are actually headed out to Europe. You can see it's pretty dense going to the west and northwest, and it's relatively sparse to the north and to the east, with the exception of Turkey itself. So in order to take advantage of the flights coming in from all these other airlines, I'm going to look over in this direction. And I want something that's within range of my plane, which is 1750, but kind of on the far end of that range. So here I have 174 potential passengers, or not potential passengers, but direct demand. Here it's 241, which is pretty good in Rostov. And if I zoom in a little more, I can see other airports. This one is 146, so that's a pretty strong possibility as well. And here we have 114. So because my other routes seem to be struggling a bit, I'm going to go with Rostov because it had the highest amount of direct demand. Even though it's a little bit shorter, it's still pretty decent. I'll do just fine on this route, I think. And I could use all 5 of my slots here, but I think I'm going to stick with 3 because it's taking time for I just don't trust my routes now that I see how shaky they are. So I'm only going to go with 3. That should fill up a bit quicker. I will increase the service level. I will drop the price, but not too much. All right, that should be good. Now I only have 2 slots left, and that's a little bit awkward. So I'm actually going to go steal a slot from one of my other routes. This one is doing pretty well, but Genoa, I'm not filling it up anyway, so there's no immediate need to use all these slots. Oh, I have to close this for some reason in order to edit my route. So I'm going to knock this back to 4. And now I have 3 slots available. That's enough to open a new route. Whenever you open a new route, it starts out in yellow because it hasn't really established if it's profitable or not yet. And I could continue looking in this area, but I'd like to find something up north. So I'm going to go ahead and open the flight map again. And I'll just take a look. Now, I've referred to airports and cities kind of interchangeably, but effectively, all of these airports are their own city because, as far as I know, people from Warsaw are kind of pre-assigned to an airport. So if we look here, let's just do that. We're going to view this airport. Potentially, it can pull in people from all these different cities. And if we look here at Warsaw, I think the display was a little better on my desktop, to be honest, but that's not working currently. Okay, so most of the people in Warsaw use Chopin. Is that the composer? Was he Polish? I suppose so. But some of them go to this other one, which I believe is the one we're looking at. Yeah, Maudlin. So, but these are fairly fixed, or they're entirely fixed, I guess. So I don't really have to worry about the other airport in Warsaw offering better routes and taking my passengers. The bottom line on all of that is that each airport is effectively its own city. So here I have 121. I still have a few 100 of range left. That's only 10. That won't do at all. $156. And it is within range. Okay, I will go ahead and take this route to Gdansk. So once again, I'm going to increase my service level just a little bit and drop the price. I'll use up that last flight on this plane. Oh, Well, I could buy a new plane. And I'm actually tempted to buy a bigger plane, but if I do that, then I want to go reorganize all my routes, and I feel like I'm not quite ready to do that yet. So I gave it some thought, and I decided I'm not going to get the bigger plane just yet. I'll show you what I was looking at, or thinking about anyway. This jet that I pointed out previously, it does cost $15 million, which is about half of my remaining cash, and I'm not entirely happy about the prospect of dipping down that low, but the real reason is because I expect to be able to hit 10 reputation before too long, and then I want as much cash as possible available to start flying out of Naples. And when I do start flying out of Naples, I think I'll be content to continue using these Embraer 120s. So I will just buy another Embraer 120, even though I don't have that much use for it yet. And did I actually start this route? I can't remember now. No. So this is a little bit on the longer end. Rather than use the last bits of those other planes, I'll just use this brand new plane. 3 flights to use up my last 3 slots. Drop the price, increase service quality, and I'll call that good. Okay, so I'm pretty confident now that things are going to be improving as my service quality rises here at the office, where I changed that to 10. That will help to pull in passengers, and the main thing is actually just time. As people become more familiar with my airline flying in and out, they will become aware of it. You can't advertise in this game, so instead you just have to start flying in and people will discover you. So that's going to be the process. As you can see, I'm not really making much of a profit yet, but that doesn't matter too much. I've got money in the bank, and I'm pretty sure that things will improve. There's also cash flow, which is a little bit different than profits, and you can see every week I get just a little bit of cash. So for now, this $23.8 million is really about all I have, and I can't afford to squander it or anything, which is why I'm being pretty cautious with it. Eventually, I should get my cash flow up high enough that I can start using that to expand my operations. But for now, I think I've covered... Oh, I'll take a quick look at the oil price. As you can see, it varies quite a bit. This is, I think, the lowest I've ever seen it, but currently it's very high. So I'm not interested in signing a long-term oil contract, and frankly, my planes are so small and so fuel efficient that oil doesn't really hurt me too badly. In fact, I can even check. Where does it tell me? Oh, on the income sheet. Here's how much I'm spending on fuel, $47,000 a week, and that's, it's going to take a long time for that to chew through $23.8 million. And is there anything else here that's kind of interesting? Yeah, one more thing I'll point out before I wrap up this episode. This is just kind of a general thing, but the smaller planes in this game are more fuel efficient and cheaper per passenger. I don't think that's necessarily realistic, but it's a game balance thing. So these smaller planes are a really good value, and that's one thing that helps smaller airlines to get started. So I'm going to take advantage of that a little bit longer and stay on these 120 Brasilias because they're just very, very light on the fuel burn and extremely cheap to purchase relative to the number of seats that I get. All right, so that will wrap it up for this episode, and it will wrap it up for this session. I might combine the next session into the same episode. I'll just have to see how long it runs. But anyway, I'm done for now. I'll come back to it tomorrow.